morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today for the November 9th virtual retirement town hall. It's kind of hard to believe that we are at the end of the year. Where has the time gone? Thank you for joining us. We have two really knowledgeable specialists on retirement here to help answer any questions that you have and walk you through a really great presentation on the journey of retirement, which is very extensive, a lot of information to go over today. As a reminder, you are welcome to submit any questions during this town hall. Please feel free to send those through the chat feature as you are watching the session today. Also, I will drop in a link for the retirement page on the APFA website. It houses a lot of really great information, including the retirement goods slide packet, which our specialists are going to talk about today as well. I'm Josh Black, APFA National Secretary and today's moderator, and we will get started. So I'll hand it over to you guys.
Thank you, Josh. Welcome to the November 9th, 2023 APFA Retirement Seminar.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. So, who are we? Hey, this is Kim Coates. She's the APFA National Retirement Specialist. I'm Patrick Hancock, the APFA Retirement Specialist Emeritus, and I have no idea who those people are. Just some random photos out of Google, I guess. We also give a shout out to Ron Harris. Hey, Ron. A lot of the information and slides you'll see today are the result of his fertile and overactive imagination, and we always give a shout out to Ron. So that's who we are. Who we are not is we are not the company. This is a union meeting, and I have been a union rep for way too many decades, and I have developed a rather healthy cynicism of my employer. If I say things about our management team that offends you, oh well. We're also not your financial advisors. We're not your attorneys. We're not your Medicare advisors. We're not your Social Security advisors. And you may need any or all of these people. That's not us, but we do strongly recommend that you at least get a financial advisor because this is a big step.
You probably will need those people.
Absolutely.
I know I will.
I got a question for you. So there are approximately 26,365 members of the APFA as of September 2023. How many of those do you think are over the age of 80? Ha, you're wrong. It's 84 or 24 of our flight attendants are over the age of 80. So 24. And then between 75 and 79, we've got 169. We've got 569 over the. We've got 1,800 over the between 65 and 69. Going on down, 4,317 in the 60 to 64 group, 4,700, the largest age group, which gives us 11,696 who are eligible to retire today. So if it feels like APFA and to some extent American Airlines is spending a lot of time, information, and resources on getting the information on retirement out. Why is because it's really important to a very large percentage of our membership. Looking at the rest of this distribution, it's kind of skinny down there, and then it starts to fatten up again as we get down into these younger people. We've got 1,200 between the ages of 20 and 24. I have uniform pieces older than that, but anyway. All right. Hey, Kim, what can you tell us about housekeeping?
Okay, so some general housekeeping items about our presentation. The PowerPoint today that we're using will follow along pretty much our APFA retirement packet entitled Good Slides. So it's a really good resource for you. Josh mentioned it before. If you go to the APFA website to the retirement page, it's there. I'll be happy to mail it to you, email it to you. It's called Good Slide, and it's a cute little graphic of a guy jumping out the door of the airplane with a couple of wine bottles. Who hasn't thought of that? Anyway, this packet is very useful. It has a lot of important checklists. It has all the benefits contacts. It has, the APFA contacts, the PBGC, Fidelity, everything you need to know before and after you retire. Also, we'll be taking questions during the presentation. We pause it several times to answer questions. So if you have questions, please submit them via chat. There's a link that you can enter a question. We will try and answer it during the presentation today. Other thing in the packet are checklists, very important. What do you need to do 6 months out, 3 months out, 1 month out? So very useful checklist in the back of our retirement packet if you're considering retirement. I mentioned the contact list already. It's also very useful. And the very most important contact of all is us, retirement@apfa.org, where you're going to kind of be the one-stop shopping place for your retirement questions, because the company, they have retirement information, but it's become rather siloed. So you have to go to one place for information about your pension, another place for benefits. So we can kind of pull it all together for you. All right, so we're going to start out by covering what retirement really means. It's comprised of several different, what we like to call baskets, or, buckets of benefits. And the first one being your medical benefits. Next are your general retirement benefits, such as your travel privileges. And lastly, your pension and 401k benefits. But we had to sort of switch that around because back in the day, everybody had a pension. Now most people don't, and everyone has a 401k. All right, so the medical benefits, we like to refer to that as the incredible shrinking basket, because everybody's medical benefits have been affected, and since various bankruptcies have occurred, we no longer have our pre-funded retiree medical benefits that many of us thought we'd have one day. That's the biggest reason most people are waiting till 65 to retire, because the medical benefits are so expensive and they have to wait until Medicare eligibility comes along. All right, so we're going to start out with some important questions you have to ask if you're thinking about retirement. Number one, what do you need to retire? What do you get in retirement? What about income? And what else do I need to research? So this is kind of what we're going to be covering in our presentation today. So let's start out with number one, what do you need to retire? Well, you need to be eligible. You need money. That's a very important aspect. And we don't like to think about it. We hope it's going to be there, but we need to make sure it's going to be there. You need to be ready. That's a biggie too. So in order to retire under the company's eligibility program, which is called the 65-point plan, you have to have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire. And your age plus your company seniority has to equal 65 points or more. That's what's known as the 65-point plan. Something's jumping around. Okay, so you got the 65-point plan, you know you're eligible, but then there comes the income piece. So Patrick, want to talk about money?
Sure, let me talk about money. All right. So when you're doing long-range planning, there are two major questions you have to answer. The first is, how much do I need to have saved on the day I retire to last me the rest of my life? And that's one of our most common questions. Well, what's the number? What's the goal? And the problem is it's different for each of us. I mean, are you married? Are you single? Did you inherit a bunch of money? Are you, $50,000 in credit card debt? The answer is different for each of us. So even though we may appear to be similarly situated, we probably really aren't. So that's why you need to talk to a financial planner, because financial planners are really good at helping you figure out what that number is. So once you get that number, the next question is, okay, how do I get there? How much do I need to save each year to reach that goal? And again, financial planners are really good at doing that. And if you're just beginning to start addressing those questions and you're thinking of retiring soon, I believe what corporate speak is you're going to have more challenges, because retirement is really a long-term planning kind of thing. We are making extra efforts to reach out to our new hires and tell them, hey, it's day one, start saving for retirement, because you will be in a much better situation if you do that. By the way, when you see them on the airplane, give them that message. Peer pressure is a good thing, usually.
We never thought we'd be there either.
No, absolutely. I knew I'd never be old enough to retire. So yeah, but drugs are bad. Otherwise, peer pressure is good. My favorite is that one on the bottom. I said, you held Christmas off. Yay. All right. So the general goal of retirement is to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working. The problem I have with that is that I'm really tired of being poor. I want to be one of those wealthy retirees I see in the ads, you know, my silver sneaker membership jetting off to the Bahamas, but apparently that's not the plan. Apparently maintain the same lifestyle. So if you're gonna figure out how much you need to save for retirement at age 67, the first question you have to ask is, how long am I gonna live? What? 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 How long am I gonna live? Come on, that's not, what kind of question is that? And yet that's the very first one, and that's the first of our answers. Well, that's not an answer, come on. I mean, seriously, and that's gonna be the most frustrating part about retirement planning, is that we're flight attendants, we want the answer. Okay? And there really isn't an answer. It's what's your best guess? What's your best calculation? What's the speculation? Or as I like to call it, what's your guesstimate? So it becomes the first of our guesstimates. So your life expectancy in 2022 is 77.3 years. 2020 had the largest decline since World War II until 2023. And I haven't updated this slide yet because it just depresses me. This is 4 years in a row that the US life expectancy has declined. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, epidemic of despair. And thank you, opioid epidemic. But anyway, that's 74.5 years for men and 80.2 for women. And guys, I got a question. If we allegedly run the world, how did we let that happen? Come on. You know, maybe we don't really run the world. They just tell us that. But anyway.
It's good, but it means our money's gonna have to last longer.
Well, that is true. Yeah, I can spend faster and die quicker. Is that a win?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. So, and that's less for African Americans, 71.8, more for Hispanics, 78.8. I got all of this information out of the National Vital Statistics Report, volume 64, book 6. I tell you, that is the best cure for insomnia I've ever found in my life. You take that on your layover, you are going to sleep like a baby. But yeah, that's just the first of our guesstimates. And the thing is, this is an average. Half of us are going to die sooner and half of us are going to die later. So the question is, which half are you in? I love to tell the straight. I started going gray in high school, and it was horrible because, you know, high school, you're trying to fit in, and here I'm getting gray hair. They occasionally mistake me for an instructor, but I went home one day and I said, hey, Mom, I discovered in biology class today that my gray hair is your fault. Everything about a man's hair comes on the mother's genes. So what's going to happen next? Did any of my uncles or grandparents or anybody go bald early? Am I going to go bald in college? She says, oh, honey, none of them ever lived that long. Great, good genetic heritage, the best gift you can give your kids. But the question is, how's your family? Do you come from long-lived people? Do you come from short-lived people? Yeah, because that's going to tell you which half you're in. I know we all want to be on the second half, but, you know, statistically, half of us will die sooner. So the question is, which half are you in? So you kind of get a good guesstimate here, but that's not all of it. There are other guesstimates. So like salary projections, we know salaries always go up.
What?
Unless of course you're in the airline industry, and then yeah.
They should be going up.
They should be going up. Yes, they will be going up soon.
They will be going up.
Inflation, which except for the last year and a half, was the longest period of virtually no inflation, less than 2%. In the history of the United States. So yeah, but inflation and investment returns. How's the stock market doing? I don't want to talk
Roller
about
coaster.
it. Yeah. They should install that as a ride over in Six Flags. Yeah, but now for the hardest question of all. Are you ready to retire? And see, the thing is, you need to be ready. We talk to a lot of people who've already retired because the company's found some new way to screw them, and we work on it for them. And then when we get that done, we say, no, wait a minute, before you go, I've got a question for you. Did you retire at the right time? I mean, was it good for you? And like 98, 99% were like, oh, it's the best thing I ever did. I don't know why I waited. My life is so full. I don't know how I ever had time to go fly a trip. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the 1 or 2% that aren't happy. Why? What happened? And almost universally, it's because they failed to plan. They $40,000, man, that'll last me the rest of my life. I'm out of here. Or they took the sudden out. The set now, that's where your union rep and the supervisor meet you on the jet bridge. And as you're walking up the jet bridge, the union rep says, I got your retirement. I recommend you take it. Yeah, you didn't plan. Or your doctor says, nope, you're not getting back on an airplane. You didn't have time to plan. So I've got good news for all of you. You are here because you are planning. You're going to be in the group that's happy with it. So the question is, have you reached that point? And, we're flight attendants. We talk to everyone. We'll talk to, our buddy bidder. We'll talk to our sister. We'll talk to that non-rever on the jump seat that we've never seen before. And all of them, because they want the best for you, will give you the advice that's best for them. Because that's just the way we work. Yeah, you're going to have to figure that out. Are you ready? And only you know. The best corollary I've heard, I had a retiree tell me, she says, when I became a stewardess, because back when I started flying, it was stewardess. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that because that's a crazy kind of job. Can you imagine the hours and the time change and the away from home? I think I could figure that out. Yeah, and it worked out really well for me. And I recognized that feeling when I retired. I wasn't sure it was right, but it was that same, I'm pretty sure. And it seems to have worked out in both cases for her. Hey, questions? Josh, what you got for us?
Sure. All right. We've got.
I just updated a couple of the questions.
Oh, thank you.
So you know.
I just see something that says, what is this? Am I missing? Do you see that one, Kim? Under 65-point plan, it says Miami. What is this?
What is the 65-point?
Oh, okay. Yeah. What is the 65-point plan?
So the 65-point plan it's not contractual. It's the company's policy that defines retirement eligibility. And in order to be eligible, as I mentioned before, you have to have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire, and your age plus your years of service have to equal 65 or more. So, you got to have both of those components. I talked to a girl the other day who has, in 6 months or so, she'll have the 10 years, but she's still pretty young and she has to wait about another 2 or 3 years before she's actually eligible for the 65-point plan. So you have to have both pieces of that puzzle, your 10 years of company seniority and your age plus your years of service have to equal 65 or more. And if you want to know when you're eligible for the 65-point plan, say you have the 10 years, but you don't have the age, or you have the age, but you don't have the 10 years, you can call retirement services at American Airlines, 1-800-447-2000. It's the team member services line, and you follow the prompts for retirement, and you'll get a live body person who can actually tell you the exact date that you will be eligible for the 65-point plan. So that's what it is, the company's requirement for retirement eligibility.
Great, thank you. If you are on a medical leave of absence, can you retire straight from the end of that leave of absence, or do you need to come back to work and then retire?
So as long as you're eligible for the 65-point plan, and being on a medical leave does not affect your date of hire seniority, so that's not going to affect your retirement eligibility. So if you're eligible for the 65-point plan and you're on a medical leave, you do not have to return to active status in order to retire. You can retire directly from a medical leave.
I already told my supervisor my last day in AA will be November 30th, and I gave her the days I'm available to do the meeting. But so far she did not set up the meeting. My question is, what am I supposed to do to retire? I already have my Social Security paperwork, Fidelity paperwork. I only need my supervisor meeting. I'd say you're already at a good start.
You're already at a good start. And these days, even though there's some company verbiage that says you set up a meeting with your supervisor, actually, there's no reason to really meet with your supervisor. You just need to notify your supervisor or your crew manager. They changed the name. The new speak is the crew manager. So FSM, supervisor, crew manager, whatever you want to call it, you notify them that you plan to retire. For instance, my last day as an active employee is going to be November 30th, and my first day as a retiree will be December 1st. They want to know your last day as an active employee, your first day as a retiree. So you verbally notify them, and then they also want you to follow up with an email to their AA email address with the same information. My last day as an active employee is going to be this, and my first day as a retiree is going to be this. So that's the procedure. There's not a form, no meeting required. And I get a lot of people saying, well, don't I need to turn in all my AA issued equipment, my ID and so on? You do need to turn it in. Generally speaking, they give you, you can turn it in prior to your retirement date if you'd like to. Generally speaking, if you have 30 days from your retirement date to return that in. And if you commute or if you're on a medical leave or you just don't want to go to the airport, you can ask your manager to send you a FedEx envelope or a FedEx label so you can just FedEx that all back to them.
That's great.
You know, it's funny, the crew managers, I'm going to stumble with that because I call them a name, but I can't use it. The crew managers, they're very different. Some of them want you to come in so they can hug your neck goodbye. And some would say, don't bother me, FedEx it in. Yes.
But or if you're like me, you've had like 3 different managers in the last
I don't know which
6 months. And you haven't met them yet. So.
I have to go to the website and look and see them myself.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, meeting with your supervisor is not one of these, contacting them. And a pro tip, when you send that email that confirms it, at the head of the email say, please hit reply and let me know you got that. That way you have a paper trail that everything's been done. It's great.
And also I've spoken to several people that haven't been able to get a hold of their crew manager. And if you have that issue, just call the manager on duty at your base because they'll know somebody that's in the office and can take your retirement notification. So if your manager isn't answering and they're not around, call the MOD and they'll connect you up with somebody that is around that can, is the level manager that can take your retirement notification.
Yeah, you don't have to contact your manager, you have to contact a manager.
Smoke signal.
Yeah.
I retire. All right, we are good to continue on.
Right.
Okay.
Kim, what can you tell us about what you get in retirement?
Okay, so on to category number 2. What do you get in retirement? Well, what do you get in retirement? You get your travel privileges, and that's really the biggest retirement actual benefit that we get these days. And that's why a lot of us want to get that 10 years plus the, age plus years of service equals 65 or more, because we'd like to, after our years at the company, continue to use our travel privileges. So you get paid out for your vacation and your sick time. You get a retirement gift, fabulous. And you get the status of being an American Airlines retiree. There you go. You also get the option to purchase some extremely expensive medical insurance. It's called the Retiree Standard Medical Plan. If you're between the age of 55 and 65 when you depart and eligible for the 65-point plan. So most people stick around for Medicare or try and find something less expensive because that's pretty costly. All right, so let's talk about the travel. You get D1, D2R, D2P, D3. Yes, you still get D3s, AA 20 and 20% off Advantage tickets. Now your D1s are regular D1s and you get the same amount as you had as an active employee. Your D2Rs are unlimited, but you are D2R, so you'll come after the rest of the D2s in the lineup. Your D3s are the same, but you only get half as many D3s as you had as an active employee. All right, so all non-rev travels are booked through non-rev travel planner, just like as active, but it's on the retirees website. And the retirees website is www.retirees.aa.com. That's where you're going to go for all the information you need as a retiree. Service charges and taxes are charged to your credit card. Of course, if you're a D3, if you have D3s traveling, make them enter their own credit card. Good tip. And said travel's booked through My ID Travel, just like it was when you were active. And unfortunately, and this is the part that makes us sad, no jump seat authority and no KCM. That would make me want to delay retirement a little bit longer some days. Also, there are some non-rev friendly travel agencies and such as Perks and Dargal, and you can get really good deals on cruises and so on. I've talked to quite a few people that are availing themselves of that benefit lately and going on, hiking river cruises and things like that and having a great time. Ron Harris took one of the cruises from Galveston. He says, if you're suffering from low esteem, take one of those cruises out of Galveston and it'll make you feel great because you'll be the youngest and cutest one on the ship. That sounds good to me. Also, if the timing's right, you can get the company to pay for your global entry and TSA pre-check one more time before you're retired. If you haven't given notification and it's, that global entry is about to expire, go ahead and get the company to pay for it one more time, then give your retirement notification. Good for several years, and why not get them to pay for it one more time? All right, sick time and vacation. So your unused sick time is paid out at a whopping rate of $8.65 per sick hour. Yikes. Your unused and accrued vacation, so that means any vacation that you have bid and you haven't used, also any vacation that you've accrued that you haven't even bid for, will be paid out at the contractual rate of 4 hours per day at your rate of pay. Unless in the unusual instance when you retire that you only have 6 days or less of vacation, it would be paid out at the contractual rate of 3.5 hours per day at your rate of pay. So, but the use of the sick time is contingent on your retirement eligibility under the 65-point plan. And we always recommend that, you earn that sick time, and by the time most of us get to a certain age, we've got a few health things going on, it's advisable to use your sick time for a legitimate issue prior to your retirement. You will be able to maximize the benefit of that sick time better. Now, there is something in negotiations that we're asking for that would allow us to transfer our unused sick time into an account for medical expenses post-retirement, but we're hoping we'll get that. Some other work groups have that, but it remains to be seen. Stay tuned. All right, so the vacation payout is not eligible for the employer 401k match and contributions, but it is eligible for your personal 401k deduction. So a lot of people will bump up if they don't really need that big vacation payout and they don't want to pay the taxes. They'll bump up their 401k contribution rate to 100% right before they retire. So it will all go into their 401k and they'll get one more big 401k contribution from themselves before they retire. Pro tip, that you can change your 401k deduction amount through Fidelity on the Fidelity website, and you can do like right after your last paycheck before you retire. All right, you get a fabulous retirement gift. When you notify your flight service manager that you're going to retire, and we recommend that you do that about 30 days out, the company likes to have at least 15 days notice when you're going to retire. So between 30 days and 15 days out is the time to notify your manager, and they remind them that they're supposed to request a retirement gift catalog for you. It's one of the things on their checklist, but sometimes they forget, sometimes they're new, so it doesn't hurt to remind them, hey, put in for my retirement gift catalog. And with that comes a commemorative certificate with your years of service and a little catalog with a wide array of gifts / dust collectors, depending on what you choose, plaques, jewelry, just fabulous things to remind you of your illustrious career with American Airlines. And here's an example, the ever popular crystal airplane tail.
The pretty tail is so important.
All right, so your status is going to be changing when you retire from that of Sky Goddess to, wait for it, Cat Rancher.
That's me.
At least me and Patrick will be cat ranchers. I don't know about the rest of you, but we thought it was kind of cute. So anyway, your status will change, and so will your ID. You'll get a retiree ID. You can request that online prior to your retirement in JetNet. You would go to Team Member Services and then Leaving American, and there's like a 7-step retirement guide that the company has on there. And I think requesting your retiree ID, the link to do that is in step 6 out of 7. Or you can wait till you retire and you can request it from the retiree's website. Up in the right-hand corner after you retire on the retiree's website is a little link that says, click here for a retiree ID. And there's a little application you fill out. You can upload your own glamour shot and you're good to go. It'll take about 30 days to send it out. And if you request it prior to your retirement, they're probably going to send it out within 30 days after you retire. You can use it for discounts, your FedEx discount, shipping, hotels, rentals, those cruises we were talking about. So anyone that offers a airline or travel industry discount. A government issued ID is actually required for travel. So you don't need the retiree ID in order to travel. A lot of people call and say, hey, I'm planning to travel right away after I retire. And I don't think I'll have my retiree ID in time. Well, you don't need it to travel. You just need your driver's license, your passport, your normal government issued ID. It's mostly for the discounts and so on. All right, you have access to the retirees website, as we mentioned, www.retirees.aa.com. You have on that website will be your payroll access. So unfortunately, you still got to pay your taxes. So there's going to be at least 3 years of pay information available on the retirees website. It's now called the Employee Pay Portal for everybody, but there will be archived e-pays and paperless pay information if you need that. Also, the detailed sequence history that you find on JetNet in your HI, on Sabre and so on, is not going to be available. So if you want that information, you should print it up prior to your retirement. All right, so I get calls from some people that say, I can't retire. I'm got something come up. I have some health issues. I'm not eligible for the 65-point plan, so I'm never going to be a retiree. It's so sad, but I have to go. What do I do? Well, guess what? You can just quit. You just let your flight service manager, crew manager, FSM know that you are going to leave and give them the date. Again, they do like to have that 2 weeks notice, but legally there's not anything they can do if you don't give it. And if you just quit, the difference is that you're not going to be, your vacation will be paid out in full because that's contractual. So you never lose anything on your vacation. You still get paid out for any bid vacation you haven't used, and in addition to any accrued vacation that you haven't even bid for yet. The change is if you qualify for a pension, either Legacy AA or Legacy US Airways, you'd need to contact Fidelity and or the PBGC to find out the information about how and when you can start that pension. Since you're not retiring, you're not going to be a retiree, you're not going to be eligible to get your sick time payout, and you're not going to be able to get the retiree travel benefits, unfortunately. All right, any questions?
All right. First question, do we still get companion passes as a retiree, and are they still at D1R or D2R status? And can we both use ID90 passes on other airlines?
You get your companion pass as a retiree on American Airlines. They travel the same level you do. The bad news is the other airlines, as you've discovered, not all other airlines recognize American's companion, and that doesn't change when you retire. So the general rule of thumb, and again, it's general, not guaranteed, is that One World Alliance Airlines will honor our companion pass, but the other airlines, it's kind of hit or miss, and not very many of them actually do.
Is D2R always after D2?
Yes.
D2R is always after D2, unfortunately.
But I will say one thing about the D1, there's no R after it. So if you're burning a D1, you're in the same bucket with the active employees. So
if I work an entire year and retire at the end of the year and have an entire year of vacation, how's that vacation for that past year handled?
So that's what I mentioned. If you've been accruing vacation for a full year and you retire on January 1st, we haven't bid for that vacation yet, but you have earned it and you will be paid in full for all of that accrued vacation that you haven't even bid for yet. That's how it's handled. And normally on the vacation payout, it comes, say you retire on December 1st, you would see the payout for the vacation probably the 15th of the next month, so around January 15th. So it's usually the 15th of the month following your retirement, if you retire at the first of the month.
So I believe this next individual took one of the early out packages. When was that? 2021, 2020?
20 and 21.
20 and 21.
Mm-hmm.
I was awarded 12 positive space passes on early retirement. While traveling on at least 2 positive space tickets, the flights were canceled and oversold. It was several flights and overnight stays before I was able to reach my destination. When rebooking it, it appears they used another positive space pass instead of crediting the one from the original reservation. I'm now down at least 6 positive space passes instead of 3. How do I get credit for the positive space passes that were lost?
So what this person would need to do is email employee, is it employee.travel or non?
I believe it's employee.travel. I'll look that up while you talk.
At AA.com and let them know what happened and give them the details. And I've spoken to quite a few people that have had similar situations, and if it's something beyond your control, a flight cancels or something like that, they will usually reissue the pass. So let me see if I can find the.
Thank you for asking that question. I hope that you find resolution to that.
It's travel.planner@aa.com.
Travel.planner@aa.com. Okay, great. How many passes on Zed?
Well, that depends on the airline. And the good news is it's becoming more and more aligned that Zed is basically just a discount, but there's still all this legacy stuff out there as to how many of the deep discount tickets, what we call the ID90s, you get. And it varies by airline, and it varies whether you're active or retired. In the old days, and I think this has been fixed, but in the old days, active employees got fewer ID90s on Delta than retired. I never figured that out. I guess they figured the retirees had more time to burn them, but yeah. So I recommend you go to My ID Travel and you get there through the retiree website, retirees.a.com, and it knows you're retired, so anything it shows you is available.
All right, let's see if we have any more right now. Nope, we're good to continue.
Okay. So I think this is you. On to income again.
All right, let's talk about income. What about income? Well, in retirement, you will hopefully have multiple streams of income. You're going to have your 401k, which is, you know, now the big daddy on getting us to retirement. You're going to have your IRA. Hopefully you've got one of that out there. You will have Social Security. We'll have a nice long talk about how much of that may or may not be there. You're going to have savings, and savings is really weird. You know, when we talk about savings, we generally think about, you know, money we have in the bank or the credit union. And savings has a lot of different things. It could be equity in your house. It could be, you know, a bunch of different things that qualify as savings. And then if you have a pension, you'll have the pension as well. And I think about that as a very stable, like a 5-legged stool. And the reason that's important is that the stability is because if one of those legs got kicked out from underneath you, you'd still be okay. I'm not saying it won't hurt, but you'll be okay. So for instance, let's say Social Security. what if the United States Congress decided to fix Social Security by saying, hey, you saved a bunch of money in a tax deferred 401k. You don't need or deserve as much Social Security as somebody else. What? They wouldn't do that. Oh, yeah? Remember how Social Security used to be retire, get it at 65 and now it's 66 or 67, depending on what year you were born? Yeah, they would do that. Raising the age happened back when Ronald Reagan and Congress were trying to trick the people into thinking they balanced the federal budget. And they did that by increasing the age for younger people because they figured by the time we figured out how we got screwed, they'd be dead.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah, they were right. They're dead. We figured it out. I'm still pissed off about it. But every time I see this list, I'm very grateful. I work for a unionized workforce and a union that cares about making sure its people's financial retirements are secure by giving us access to these options. And I contrast that with the 40% of the people on Social Security that only have Social Security. I mean, how stable is a one-legged stool? Please, Lord. I mean, what kind of security is there when your entire financial life is dependent on the good graces of the United States Congress, that functional, efficient body of ours?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, yeah, so that's the income, and you want to have all of those incomes. And like we said, the 401k is going to be the workhorse for most of us going on into retirement. Well, what about my 401k loan? Well, you've got a couple of options. The first option is you can just continue to pay back the loan on your current amortization schedule, or if you have the cash, just pay it off entirely. Because you don't have a paycheck to take that out of, they'll have you fill out a debit form. They'll take it out of your directly out of your checking account. The second option is you can stop making payments and take the outstanding balance as a distribution, which will be taxed as income. And if you're not yet 15 and a half, you'll get the 10% penalty on top of that. So this is a really bad choice. Yeah, if you can all continue to pay it back. And not only that, as you pay it back, the money you put in continues to earn income. So that's a good choice. Hey, talking about the 401k, a few things. Your 401k is going to freeze for the first 30 days after you exit from the company. And I mean freeze. You can't change investments. You can't take money out. You can't put money in. It is just frozen. So if you're going to need money in the first 30 days after retirement, just before you leave, you might consider rolling a little bit of that out so that you've got it there. I also want to point out that if you need money out of your 401k in the first 30 days of retirement, you may not quite be ready to retire. So yeah, talk to a financial planner about that. You've got options with your 401k. You can roll it into an IRA. You can roll it into a new 401k. You go get another job. Welcome to Walmart. They've got a great 401k plan. They'd love for you to roll that money into there because the more people in the plan, the cheaper the expenses. Or you can leave it with the AA plan and manage it through Fidelity like you do now. And we've got a lot of people in our plan. It's like, what, 156,000 people in the plan? And so the expenses are really low. We are like less than $100 a year on plan expenses. And that is really cheap in the 401k world. So you have those options. What about your retirement IRA? Just like your 401k, you've got your pre-tax and your post-tax, or as we call the Roth. The problem with the IRA is that there are limits as to contributions on it. If you were making more than $138,000 as a single person,
I wish.
yeah, or 218 as a married, 2 high-time flying flight attendants might actually be getting there. So yeah, that you can't make contributions, and that's a problem. I had a neighbor call me the other day and says, they won't let me make contributions for 2022 to my IRA. They're making me take it all back out. And I went, that's because you made too much money. Yeah, cry me a river. Yeah, but anyway, so you don't have those limits in the 401k. So yeah, the IRA, if you have it. You also have conversion options, and you will be inundated with people suggesting that as you retire, you could roll your 401k into an IRA. That may be a great idea. It may be a terrible idea. The problem is that we tend to think of them as like pretty much the same thing. There's a tax deferred accounts, but they are not. That the 401k is a product of federal law and therefore has protections, ERISA protections, and the IRA is a product of state law, and so it has very inconsistent and different protections. the classic example is you run over the neighbor's chihuahua and they sue you for everything you've got and they win. Under ERISA, they can't touch your 401k, that it is 100% protected from creditors. Under state law, it varies. I think it's Michigan that has you get to keep the first $50,000 of your IRA. The grieving chihuahua owner gets the rest. So, yeah. So where you retire, you might want to think about all these different things about state law and stuff. You can roll your 401k into an IRA, and if you're still active, you can roll it back. But once you retire, it's a one-way door. So that may tell you a little bit about where the IRS wants you to have that money. Questions?
At what age must I begin withdrawing from my 401k? What is the minimum account I must withdraw, and at what frequency, monthly, otherwise?
Okay. The Secure 2.0 Act moved the mandatory required minimum distributions to age 73, effective January 1st of next year. So if you turn 73 next year and you are retired, you will have required minimum distributions. They don't care if you take it all in one lump sum on January 1st of the year in which you turn 73, or you know how you got till April 15th to file your tax return, April 15th of next year? You could take it all on one lump sum on April 14th of, let's see, what's next year? 24, 25.
24.
Well, it's the 24 distribution.
Gotcha.
You've got until April 14th of 2025 to take that money out. They don't care if you take it out monthly or all in one lump sum. But the good news is, if you're still working and you're one of those people, over the age of 73 and still working, you have no required minimum distributions on your 401k. If you're still working for the employer that has that 401k, you do not have required minimum distributions. However, if you've rolled it into an IRA, you have required minimum distributions. Make sure your financial planner tells you that if they tell you that you should roll it over.
So if I want to take it out monthly, I can. If I want to take it out yearly, if I want to take it out quarterly, it's totally up to me.
Correct.
As long as I get a certain amount in a year, that's the required minimum
distributions. And the frustrating thing is, the older you get, the higher percentage is required to take it out, because the goal is to have that money all out of the account before you're dead, because we let you not pay taxes on it with the goal of you being retired and stable. Okay, you're getting older. You don't need, it's not there to have a nice big nest egg for your kids. It was for you to have a stable retirement. So the goal is to have it all out of that tax sheltered account before you die. Be careful if you're going to do like the monthly. Some IRAs charge you a small fee, like $5 to send you a check. So if you do 12 of them, you're going to pay 60. If you do one, you're going to pay 5. Fortunately, if you leave it with Fidelity, there's no fee to have that ACH'd over to you on whatever schedule you want.
Good to know.
They call it setting up a paycheck-like environment. Oh, no, paycheck I went to work for. This is, you're just going to send me money.
So let's say you meet the 65-point plan, you're 62 years old. Can you take retirement at AA but not touch your 401k or draw Social Security because you want to work somewhere else?
Absolutely. You get to decide with the 401k until you hit that required minimum distribution age, which it's 72 this year and it will be 73 beginning in 2024. You don't have to take your 401k. You don't have to touch it. You can just leave it there and let it continue to earn interest. And if you go get another job and they have a 401k, you can roll your 401k into that one if you choose to do so. And the same for your pension. You don't have to, you get to decide when you want to start your pension. Social Security, if you're working after age 70, go ahead and start it at age 70, because really you're going to lose money. It doesn't get bigger after age 70. And so there's no downside to beginning taking it at age 70.
Correct.
Generally speaking, does any of this retirement information change based on the state in which the flight attendant is based at retirement, such as California?
The IRA rules change, and And that has to do with, you know, protection and the licensing of the people that sell it. Most of the issues with retirement money is federal taxes, and that is pretty consistent. But we're going to talk about taxes a little bit. But California, if you live in California, you pay a higher state income tax on your retirement than I do in Texas, because we ain't got one of them.
If you're based in California.
No, if you live in
If you
California.
live there.
Yeah, if you're retired.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're retired and you live in California, you will pay a state income tax on your retirement income, some of it, not on the road. And if you live in a state that doesn't have an income tax, like Arizona or Texas or Florida, you will not. So that's another of those things. Where do I want to live when I retire?
Yeah.
So my recommendation is have 4 homes and pick the most tax efficient one to
Move to Tijuana and you don't have to pay taxes on it.
What?
Move to Tijuana, you don't have to.
There you go. Well, if it's a U.S. retirement, you'll probably still have to pay.
Oh, yeah.
Income.
That's true. 2 things that are, what is it? Sure in life, death and taxes.
That's right. That's right. And we're working on that.
Yeah.
All that biohacking.
That's right.
All right. We're good to continue.
All right. Kim, what can you tell us about Social Security?
Okay, so Social Security, I never thought I'd be talking about it. Just my grandparents talking about their aches and pains, and now I'm sitting here discussing Social Security. Go figure. Anyway, Social Security may be taken as early as age 62 or as late as age 70. I just mentioned there's no increase after age 70, so if you're still working at 70 and beyond, you should probably go ahead and take your Social Security. The website for Social Security is www.ssa.gov. So if you need information about the different options for taking your Social Security and so on, how much am I going to get? You go set up an account and you can see what you get if you take early Social Security, what you get if you take your full Social Security, which for most of us these days is at age 67. But it's a sliding scale between 65 and 67 if you were born prior to age 1960. Married couples have some complicated decisions on when and how to draw their Social Security. So if you're a single person, you have 9 different options
ways,
for taking your Social Security. So multiply that and you're married, you have 81 different possible options for taking your Social Security, which is why we say talk to a Social Security advisor. The SSA.gov is a good place to start. There are different state organizations that can help direct you. And there are apps to show you how to optimize your Social Security benefits. If you're a geek like Patrick, you'll probably enjoy getting one of those apps. So early Social Security at age 62. We're going to discuss some pros and cons about taking your Social Security early. So a pro is that you would get more years of payments if you start at age 62. You can get the money now if you need it. So if you're retiring early or you've had to cut back on your income, you will get that money now if you need it if you're 62. Some cons are that you're going to have lower payments for the rest of your life. So starting it early will reduce your payment amount and they're not going to change for the rest of your life. Another con is that you're subject to income limits until you hit your full Social Security age. SSNRA, we call that. So if you start your Social Security early in 2023, you can earn up to $21,340, but for every dollar you earn after that, you deduct $1 of benefits for every $2 you earned. So if you're still working and considering starting your Social Security early, you might want to think about that, taxes, because most of us who fly the hard 40, which we're required to do, are well over that income limit.
Exactly.
Just keep it in mind and talk to your tax person about it. All right, so the break-even point for Social Security, if you start it early versus starting it at your normal Social Security age, the average age of death. And we're going to go back to that question about when when are you going to die, and who knows? But here's a little chart to illustrate that. So when should I start? If I start at age 62 versus age 67, you know, the lines cross at the average age of death. So if your family history is like mine, where my grandmother got a new car when she was almost 90, she was doing fine, you know, probably starting it later at the full Social Security age is a good idea. If you're like Patrick's family, going gray in high school, and his uncles didn't live long enough to, you know, find out if they were going to go bald or not, well, you know, maybe starting it a little earlier. So you just kind of have to take your knowledge about yourself and your family history, also your situation. Are you still working, or are you going to have to stop working earlier, and take that all into account? And talking to an advisor here again is a good idea. All right, so full Social Security at SSNRA. If you start your full Social Security at your full Social Security age, Social Security normal retirement age, we call it, you have like a special break during the year that you start your Social Security. So for the months before your birthday, the limit on earnings is $58,520 in 2023. So you can make that much, then retire and not be subject to those income limits for early Social Security. And a lot of people ask, what's my normal Social Security retirement age? Well, here's a little chart that illustrates that. So like we said, if anyone born after 1960, it's age 67. And then there's a sliding scale for anyone born from 1943 onwards. So there you go. All right, what counts as earnings for Social Security, Patrick?
Good question. All right, let's talk about earnings. Earnings include income from wages or net earnings from self-employment. So if you've got a little side gig, what you end up is your income from that counts as earnings. That includes bonuses, commissions, severance pay, anything you're going to, you know, get as a result of working. And that earnings is, again, we're talking about how much did you earn while drawing Social Security early. The good news is earnings do not include investment income, pensions, capital gains, inheritance. Thus, dividends and capital gains won't negatively affect your Social Security benefits directly, even if you decide to file earlier than your full retirement age. The other thing that's on here that I think is important to point out is all of this is talking about if you start it early. If you start your Social Security benefits at your normal retirement age, none of this applies. Bill Gates, if he takes his Social Security at normal retirement age, does not have to pay any kind of penalty for being stupidly filthy rich.
Darn it.
Darn it. Yes. Speaking of taxes on Social Security, the first 15% of your Social Security is tax-free. I don't care how much money you make. The first 15% of it is tax-free. And you can pay tax on 0, 50, or 85% of the rest, depending on how much other income you've got, which we call the combined income. And no, that's not how much the tax rate, that's how much is going to be subject to tax. And here's the chart. If you make 0 to 25,000, or joint 0 to 32,000, 0 all the way down to if you make 34,000 plus, 85% of your Social Security will be taxed, but that's the amount that's going to be taxed, not the tax rate again. Hey, what about state taxes on Social Security? Well, in 37 states, your Social Security is state tax free. 13 states do tax some or all of your Social Security. Who are those bad boys, Colorado? Take a look at this list and be thinking about that when you retire. Remember, we were talking earlier about your 401k and taxable. Here's Social Security and taxable. Where you live is going to have an impact on how much state taxes you pay on your Social Security, your 401k. Hey, let's talk about savings. Savings is not only just the cash and stocks and bonds. You also have hidden savings like home equity. There are a lot of ways to get at your home equity. Probably the worst way is one of those reverse mortgages. You know, they advertise those on TV a lot because they make a lot of money off of people. And when they make money, you're losing money. So reverse mortgage is a bad idea unless you really don't have any other options. But there are a lot of ways to get at your home equity. Take out a home equity line of credit. or downsize. That's probably a really good idea. You needed a 4-bedroom house with a pool and 4 bathrooms when you had all of those kids and people and stuff, but
Or all of those parties.
all of those parties, yes. So now maybe you don't need so much. So you could downsize and then take all that equity, put it in the bank and just travel or something. So yeah, life insurance. There are 2 kinds of life insurance. There's the term where you pay a fee, and if you die during the course of the life insurance policy, you win. If you don't die, you lose and get nothing. There's nothing there. The other is whole life, which is kind of a combination that while you're making contributions, you build up a cash value on that whole life insurance. If you, the American insurance is term. So, but if you somehow went somewhere and bought a whole life policy, you may have cash value in there that you can tap into. So those are things that I think about as the hidden savings. Kim, what can you tell us about pensions?
Okay, so pensions, if you're lucky enough to still have a pension, it will be dependent on where you started out your career prior to various mergers as to how you're going to go about starting that pension, as well as when you're able to start the pension. So we have the Legacy US Airways pension with the PBGC. Also have a few other former airlines, Eastern, TWA, that have PBGC pensions. And then there are the Legacy AA pensions that are held in trust with State Street Bank, according to the requirement by the bankruptcy judge. So AA doesn't have that money in their operating budget.
Or in their hand.
Or in their hand. However, the money is held by State Street Bank. It's administered, the pension, issuing the checks and starting your pension and so on, is administered by Fidelity. So for the US Airways, TWA, Eastern former folks, you would contact the PBGC to start your pension. AA, Legacy AA pensions, you contact Fidelity. All right, so in addition to where you go to start your pension, there's different rules about when you can start your pension. And if you started your career at US Airways or have a US Airways pension, actually, you may have started your career at any number of places: PSA, Allegheny, Trump Shuttle, Piedmont, US Airways Original. So on this side, you're where you started your career is going to determine how and when you can start your pension. So if you started out at Shuttle, your early pension age is age 52 and your full pension age is age 62. You can start your pension while you're working with any PBGC pension. So you can start it at age 52 if you were started out at the Shuttle, but just keep in mind that if you start early, there's a 3% per year reduction prior to age 62, which is the full pension age. Piedmont, Allegheny, US Airways, the early pension age is age 55, full pension age is 62. Again, you can start early if you like, but there is the 3% reduction per year if you start it prior to the full pension age. And PSA, early pension age 55, and full pension age 65. The reduction applies for everybody in every circumstance if you start prior to age, whatever the full pension age is. All right, for the Legacy AA pensions, early pension age is age 55 and the full pension age is age 60, 3% per year if you start it prior to age 60. And the difference here with the AA pensions is that you, unfortunately, with a very minor loophole, cannot start those pensions while you're still working. So generally speaking, there's no double dipping with the Legacy AA pensions. Double dipping is permitted with the PBGC pensions. So, and there was a rule that you had to wait until your full retirement age to double dip, but that went away as of June 1st, 2021. So anyone with the PBGC pension, once they hit the early pension age, can decide when they want to double dip or if they want to wait until after they retire. The early reductions still apply, as we mentioned before, and there's no reductions at the full pension age. All right, so pension options. Patrick, how many different ways can I take my money?
That's a really good question. How many different ways can I get my money? Well, there are three basic ways you can get your money. The single life annuity, the PPG calls this a straight life annuity. The good news for us is that the acronym SLA is the same, and we're an airline, we run on caffeine, jet fuel, and acronyms.
Where's my caffeine?
Exactly. Or you can share with someone else. So you take it for your life and then someone else's life. And I remind you, it is nice to share. And then the third option is the minimum number of checks. If you have a legacy AA pension, you have a fourth option, and that's more upfront, less later, the level income option. So let's look at those. Single life annuity. You get a check every month until you're dead, and then it stops. A payment every month is an annuity for life. That makes it a life annuity. It's for one life, yours, which is where they come up with the name single life annuity or straight life annuity. The SLA is the normal form of benefit. Well, what do we mean by normal? Well, normal is that when they're trying to guess how much money they have to save over the course of your career to fund your pension, they have to make some assumptions. How long are you going to live? How much are you going to work while you're alive? When are you going to start your pension and what form of benefit are you going to take? They assume that you're going to take the single life annuity. And the surprising thing is an awful lot of people do. Like between the single life annuity and the joint and survivor, like over 95% of people take one of those two. So they calculate out what is the single life annuity. And that is the value, what's it worth? And that value is what drives the numbers in the other pensions or the other pension options. So let's talk about those other options. It's nice to share a pension for your life and someone else's life as well. They will get an annuity for their life after you're gone. They survived you. So we call it the survivor annuity. You never get two checks in 1 month. It comes to you until you're dead, and then they start getting a check. So you never get two checks in the same month. The problem is it's still the same big pile of money. And so you can choose to leave them 50 to 100% of what you get, not your single life annuity amount, but your reduced amount when you pick the joint annuity. But here's the problem. The more you leave them, the less you get. Well, dang, I have to leave Bozo something, because otherwise they're going to be living under a bridge. All right, I'll take the hit and get less while I'm alive so they get money when I'm gone. Dang, all right. But what happens if they die first? I'm stuck with that lower monthly amount. I could have had a higher amount with a single life annuity. I guess wrong. Ha! But there is a way to cover that risk. Flight attendants have another option. It's called the pop-up option. By taking a slightly lower amount each month, you can cover the risk that the joint annuitant dies first. With the pop-up option, if your joint annuitant died first, next month we pop you back up to the single life annuity amount and pretend you never made that joint survivor election. So that's pretty cheap insurance because life is uncertain. And I know you married that 32-year-old pool boy, but you know, maybe the only reason you didn't kill him earlier was that you were gone 3 days a week and now you're home. You know, those terrible chlorine accidents happen. So, yeah. So most people who take the joint and survivor elect the pop-up option because it's cheap insurance, but talk to your financial advisor to make sure that that's the right choice for you. And like I said, most people are going to take one of these two options, like north of 95%, but there is another option. Let's look at it for those couple of people it might be good for, and that's the guaranteed period certain. Checks come for a minimum of 10, 15, or 20 years, or if you're with PBGC, 5, 10, or 15 years. And what that says is it's like a single life annuity, except we guarantee that you'll get at least 20 years of checks. So if you die 2 years after you retire, there's 18 more years of checks coming, and then it's going to stop. Who would do that? Because you're going to take less by electing this option. And who's going to do that is someone that has an obligation. Think you've got a kid, like going to go through college, and you need to have some money there for them. But if you put them on as the joint survivor, the numbers get so small because they're going to get that for 80 years that the guaranteed period certain is an option out there. Again, it doesn't Doesn't work for most people, but you should know what's out there. The other option that's out there is if you have a legacy AA, there's a level income option. And the level income option talks about that problem you have. Say you took the sudden out and you're just getting your Social Security, or just getting your pension, you can't get your Social Security yet. And once Social Security kicks in at age 62, or at your Social Security normal retirement age, and you add those two together, you're going to be fine. But right now, trying to live on the pension alone just isn't cutting it. AA says, we got a deal for you. We're going to give you more now, more upfront. And then once you reach that Social Security age, whichever one you choose, we'll give you less later on, so that it kind of levels it out, balances it out. I don't think it's actuarially sound. They swear up and down it is. And there are very few people that I've thought should make this choice. Sometimes, particularly people that took the sudden out and didn't have any chance to plan, and they need money to pay the rent now. Okay, maybe it makes sense. We'll deal with tomorrow later. But for most people, I think it's just nice to know that it's out there. So how do I apply for my pension? Well, no earlier than 90 days before you start your pension, you request a kit. What's a kit? That's that stack of papers that you're going to have to fill out to request your pension. And you call the Fidelity American Airlines Employee Service Center and say pensions, or you can visit netbenefits.com/AA, the website you use for your 401k, and select the collect tab on your pension and follow the prompts. If you have an LUS pension, you contact the PBGC directly. Last time we looked, you still can't fill the form out online. You have to talk to somebody. So they keep saying it's a coming. I'm sure it'll get here eventually. So people ask, hey, are there taxes on pensions? Absolutely. You pay federal tax on pensions as ordinary income, somewhere between 10 and 37% tax rate, depending on how much money you make. Well, how do I know? We have a chart for that. Okay, if you make $0 to $11,000, you're going to pay 10% on that first part. As you make more, the next dollar you make gets a higher percentage. If you have over $95,000 in income, every dollar over $95,000 gets taxed at 24%, and it goes all the way up to $578,000, or if you're married, $693,000. And if you're in those tax brackets, you'd better have a financial advisor and probably a tax advisor on speed dial, because you have more issues than just your flight attendant pension. Now, some states don't tax pensions. There are 14 states. We'll only tax a portion of the pensions, 4 states. Think about where you're going to live, or where you're going to have your tax home in retirement, because the difference between that state taxing your Social Security, your pension, and your 401k can make a big difference in your quality of life. So think about it. All right. Remember, your mileage may vary. These numbers are for some mythical flight attendant and not for you. Hey, Kim, what kind of pension tips do you have for us?
Okay, I've got a few. So general pension tips, your pension kits can be requested from Fidelity or from the PBGC, no more than 90 days out from your retirement date. The pensions always start on the first of the calendar month. So when you're talking about when you're going to retire and start your pension, forget about the bid month. It's always based on the calendar month. You want to be done with your last trip before the end of the month, the previous month, because if you're working, you can't work and be retired at the same time. So if you work that fly through trip, that would prevent you from 1 month of pension payment. Just a good thing to keep in mind. With PBS, it should knock you off that trip if the supervisor codes you RT retired in a timely manner, but there's no guarantee that's going to happen. So just be sure you make sure you don't have flight through trips. All right, more pension tips. You will need to have copies of all your divorce decrees and quadros. Your pension could be delayed, your initial pension payment, if these documents are not submitted with your pension kit. So keep that in mind. I know I'm going to have to come up with a bit of divorce paperwork myself when I retire. I'll see where I put that. If you're a widow or a widower, you want to include a copy of the death certificate with your kit when you return it, just so they know that you're not down for a joint and survivor annuity anymore. You can choose the single life annuity, because that other person is not in the picture any longer. So, first month is always paid retroactively. It's usually, used to be 6 to 8 weeks. They've got it down to probably about 2 to 4 weeks following your retirement date. So often you'll have received the first, 2 months at once. And then after that, it should be like clockwork on the first of every calendar month. All right. The qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity. This is a benefit that's eligible for legacy AA flight attendants. And it came about because federal law says that your spouse automatically gets a 50% joint and survivor annuity should you pass away prior to commencing your pension. Now, if you fill out this form that's called the QPSA form, Qualified Pre-Retirement Survivor Annuity, and you were to pass away before you commence your pension, you could elect for your spouse to receive 100% joint and survivor annuity rather than a 50% joint and survivor annuity. So it's a good thing to have on file. It used to be on JetNet, but now you would request it through Fidelity. And the form, like I said, it's through Net Benefits. I think you can access it under forms when you go on your pension page, or you can call Fidelity and ask them to send it to you. Flight attendants are the only work group at the company that can make this election, and they're not charged anything for it. And the company used to use, I'm not sure, I haven't looked at the recent one from Fidelity, but they sometimes have information about a charge if you put in for that form, and that does not apply to the flight attendant work group. So
why doesn't that apply to the flight attendant work?
We negotiated that benefit for the flight attendant.
Go APFA.
Go APFA. All right. So any questions? We're down to questions about pension, 401k, and so.
Sure. Should I pass away, does my husband get my pension and my 401k? How about my Social Security? When I retire, I'll get Medicare. What kind of health care insurance can I get my husband?
All right. That's actually complicated, but let me pick them up one at a time here. Your 401k goes to whatever name you have on your benefit on file with Fidelity. So if you have the old Evil X's name on file, the Evil X is going to get your 401k. I strongly recommend you check your benefit designations every year, because you're pretty sure you did it, but you've slept since then and you picked up that Asia trip and now you can't get.
Things change.
Things change. Check every year. The second question is your pension. On the day you retire, you're going to get that kit. And you get to decide whether or not you're going to take the single life annuity or leave it to someone else. If you're legally married and you have an LAA pension, you can do that QPSA thing that Kim was just talking about, so that if you die before you start your pension, your legally married spouse would get 50 to 100%, pick 100% since you're not paying for it, unless you really don't like them all that much. But so that's the 401k and the pension. The Social Security depends on a couple of things. Let's assume you've been married at least 10 years. And when you die, they can claim on your pension when they're eligible for Social Security. If, say, your spouse is 42 and you're dead and you die, they can't get Social Security yet, unless they're raising your kids or something. But they can't get Social Security until they are eligible for Social Security. And if they're 42 now, the current rule is they're not eligible until 67.
Which I forgot to, it was blocked off from me, but the first part, this individual says, I'm 70 years old and my husband is 42. Good going.
All right. Yay.
However, that brings up the third question, which is the problem of having a 28-year age difference in your relationship, in that you're eligible for Medicare. Yeah, your spouse is not, because Medicare is not based on marriage. It's based on your own individual work history. So you're going to be living high on Medicare with your Silver Sneakers membership And your spouse, if they don't have independent insurance from their own employment, are going to be out there hunting and scratching for insurance.
Or you're going to be dipping into your 401k to pay for their insurance.
Exactly. And, you know, the default these days is if you don't have employer insurance and you're not eligible for some sort of governmental insurance, you're going to be with an ACA policy because those tend to be the most cost efficient. Not 100%. There are some states out there that have really good state policies, and there are some companies out there that will offer you a really good price to get you in the door. Double check it every year when they increase your premiums 50%. I think I covered everything.
I think
And I forgot to mention something about the QPSA form on the previous slide. So the QPSA form, basically, you have to have been married at least 12 months in order to be eligible. Like, you know, if I was sick and I was on my deathbed, I would think, oh, I'm going to marry my best friend really quick so they can have my pension. Well, you can't do that. They, you know, whoever came up with the whole QPSA thing thought about that scenario, and they say you have to have been married at least 12 months in order to fill out the QPSA form and have your beneficiary, the only beneficiary that can use the QPSA form is your spouse, and have them get the 100% rather than the 50% join-in survivor annuity. So
it's almost like they figured that people that lived to be older were smart and clever to come up with these interesting ways to try and beat the system.
oh, I think
they knew flight attendants.
They know flight attendants are very giving people, and if they know they're not well and they're going to have an opportunity to leave their pension to somebody, they would do it.
They would do it, absolutely.
What health insurance is available to retirees between 55 to 65 years old? Is there more than one option?
Okay, we're going to cover that in the next section. It's called the Retiree Standard Medical Plan. It's very expensive, but stay tuned. We're going to be discussing that in a few minutes.
I love a segue when I see one. You're good to continue.
Okay.
All right.
I think it's me.
I think you're right.
All right, so as I said, medical insurance options, that's the next section. So we're going to list the options, and we're going to talk a little bit about each one. And you notice we've got dollar signs next to them, which gives you an idea about how much these options cost. So COBRA is pretty expensive. You're paying the full cost. Another option, the Retiree Standard Medical Plan, AA Retiree Medical Insurance. Look, it's even more dollar signs than the COBRA. It's ridiculously expensive. That's another option that is available if you're between 55 and 65 and have the money to pay for it, but we'll discuss a little bit more about that in a second. Affordable Care Act, as Patrick mentioned, that's going to be the best option for most people, either COBRA initially, followed by the Affordable Care Act, if you're not married and have the ability to go on a spouse's insurance, or Medicare if you're 65 or older. So yeah, the old fashioned way, you can marry someone with insurance or die young, but that's not really an option. We're not going to go there. So COBRA. COBRA is a way to continue the exact same health insurance you had as an active employee. So a lot of people are saying, you know, how does COBRA work? What does it cover? It's a continuation. COBRA stands for, I don't know, coordinated, I don't even know what it stands for. Consolidate, omnibus, yeah.
Budget Reconciliation.
Budget Reconciliation Act, okay. But it's a continuation of your current benefits, and you're offered COBRA. You're being offered COBRA is triggered by things like your regular active benefits ending for a certain reason, such as disability or retirement of your spouse and so on. So COBRA is pretty much going to be an option for anybody that's not 65 when they retire. It is expensive. You're paying 100% plus a 2% admin fee. It can last for up to 18 months, possibly 29 months if you're eligible for Social Security disability. And it must be taken, there's a window to take COBRA, so you have to elect it within the first 60 days of leaving the company. And it's a one-shot deal. So if you miss that window, you're not able to go back and take it later. More about COBRA. It can include medical, dental, vision, and flex spending, and you can mix and match the coverage. So most people who are 65 and eligible for Medicare continue their dental and vision through COBRA, even though they have to have Medicare as their primary medical. Once the coverage begins, it's retroactive to the date you leave American Airlines. And this, flight attendants being flight attendants and planners, they want to go, how can I sign up for COBRA before I retire? Well, unfortunately, you can't do that because you're being offered COBRA is triggered by your retirement. So once you retire, then there's a message sent to the benefits department to offer you COBRA, usually about 48 hours or so after you retire. If you go into the retiree's website, and click on benefits, you'll see a little message that says, click here to make your COBRA election. So there is a little bit of an administrative lag because that message doesn't get sent until after you retire. Once you sign up, it's retro back to the day you retired. So say you retired on the 1st, you got your COBRA in place on the 5th. Once it's all done and you've made your payment arrangement, it's as though you never lost your coverage. So that's good to know because it's a little bit stressful thinking about those 5 days without benefits, The payments are important. You don't want to be late with COBRA or your coverage will be dropped. Most people set up some sort of a payment arrangement such as a direct debit. All right, one last thing to remember about COBRA in conjunction with Medicare. I already said that if you're eligible for Medicare, Medicare needs to be your primary coverage. COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage as an alternative to Medicare. So I actually talked to a flight attendant the other day who's, thought she could do COBRA and didn't sign up for Medicare when she retired. And now she's signing up and she's going to be subject to late enrollment penalties. So you don't want that to happen. If you're 65 or older, you can keep COBRA if you really want to pay for it in addition to your Medicare, but Medicare is your primary insurance at that point. COBRA is always secondary to Medicare. All right, so AA retiree medical insurance. This is the really expensive coverage we were talking about that you are, if you're between 55 and 65 and eligible for the 65-point plan at the time of your retirement, you can sign up for this coverage. The participant pays the full cost and the price is uncapped. It actually doubled in 2015, so it's pretty unstable. It's hard to manage with this insurance if you're on a fixed budget in retirement. All right, so how much does it cost? We'll show you first that it's really good coverage. It's, our old retiree standard medical plan that we had prior to the bankruptcy, and it's a $150 deductible, $1,000 out-of-pocket max. That's really good. You don't see that anymore these days. However,
I want that. That's a
I
great
want it
deal.
too. Well, you can have it. Here's how much you got to pay for this year from 1 month, $2,171. And we're just got the cost increase for 2024, and you can be assured that it's going to go up. We'll be updating our packet and presentation with that information before the end of the year, but it is not inexpensive. So now that you've seen the cost, and our emotional support goat has fainted, here's what other options you can have. So we talked about COBRA, we talked about the retiree standard medical plan, another option. And if most people aren't eligible for Medicare and their COBRA runs out, they try and find something via the Affordable Care Act, and you would go to www.healthcare.gov and look for plans. If your income is low in retirement, you could possibly be eligible for some tax credits, which is a good thing. There is a company that AA contracts with called VIA Benefits, and they are available to help you if you are not 65 when you retire and you want to find an Affordable Care Act plan. You can call that top number. If you're post 65 and you want to find a good Medicare plan, they can assist you with signing up for Medicare plans. And their numbers are in the back of our APFA retirement packet. So it's a resource for, that's available through the company should you wish to use it. All right, Medicare, yikes. You want to talk about Medicare? Oh, okay, you can talk about Medicare.
Let me talk about Medicare. Hey, Medicare. The number one question we get at the retirement desk is, I'm turning 65 or my spouse is turning 65. I'm still going to keep working, but I have to sign up for Medicare, right? No, you do not. You do not. You do not. But my sister says I have to sign up for it. Yeah, no, you do not. You do not. But Aetna says I have to sign up for it. No, you do not. You do not. And as we will see in a second, there are multiple parts of Medicare. Part A is the part that you've been paying for your entire working career. And so you don't have to pay for it in retirement. You can sign up for it if you want to. It doesn't cost you anything, but it also doesn't do anything. I keep waiting for someone to tell me that Part A covered something Americans' insurance did not cover. I haven't heard it yet.
It might cover like one gauze pad that's less expensive with Medicare or something like that.
Something like that.
Something tiny, but.
And occasionally, you'll get lucky because the hospital billing departments are stupid. The price that they charge for a procedure to Medicare is different, lower, than the price they charge to Americans in insurance, which is higher. And occasionally, if you signed up for the Part A, even though they're not going to bill Medicare, they charge you the lower amount and your copay is going to be lower. But yeah, and you hope they don't catch it somewhere down the road. But for most people, signing up for Part A is not a problem. There are a couple of people, type of people that sign up for Part A, it's a problem. And that is, if you are in the core plan, and if you're in the core plan, you know you're in the core plan, and you have the health savings account, and if you have that, it's not an FSA. So you've had the FSA. If you have the HSA, and you'll know it, you should not sign up for the Part A because that will prevent you from making any further contributions to your HSA. And you put up with the core plan because you wanted the HSA. So for most people, it's not a problem. There's a small group of people that signing up is not a good idea. But it doesn't do anything. It doesn't cost you anything. So there. So.
And I get a lot of questions from people that are signing up for the Plus plan because it also has a retirement.
Oh, that's right.
But that account is called an HRA, and you can have the HRA and contribute to that and be signed up for Medicare Part A.
Yes,
so as Patrick said, the only plan that you have to worry about, and you want to delay signing up for Medicare Part A, is if you're on the core plan with the HSA, that Health Savings Account.
Yeah. And again, you won't stumble into that. If you're in that, you're there for a reason and you know why. Don't do it. Don't do Part A. But there are actually 4 parts to classic Medicare: Part A, Part B, Part D, and then the sub-med, which we'll talk about in a second. Part A covers hospitalization, and you've been pre-funding that. And as airline employees, we know what pre-funding means. I've been paying for it every month for my entire career, so that when you get there, it's free. Part B is a later development. It covers doctor's visits and labs, and it is paid for by a premium each month when you're on Medicare. The premium is like $160, I think, right now. It went up to like $175, and now it's back down to like $160. And you pay that every month. And if you're getting Social Security, they take it out of your Social Security check. If you're not, they send you a bill quarterly because they don't want to collect a monthly fee. And then about 25 years ago, they added a third part called Part D, and I always remember D for drugs. So Part D covers drugs, and because originally government was bad and industry, or government was good and industry was bad, the Part A and Part B are administered by the government. When we got to Reagan economics, it became government's bad, private insurance is good. So Part D, the drug plans, are administered by private drug companies. And the price varies dramatically depending on where you live and what drugs and medications you want covered. So remember we were talking about how if you don't sign up for Part A, your sister said you're going to pay a penalty. Well, there's actually some reason for thinking that, and that is that if you sign up late after you're required to sign up, you're going to pay a penalty on your Part B and Part D, and that's called the late enrollment fees. But you just said I didn't have to sign up. Well, yes, you don't. How do I prove that I didn't have to sign up? Good question.
There's a workaround.
There's a workaround. There's a form for that. And because it's government, it's a CMS L564, which just rolls off your tongue. It's just so, yeah. And you get that form and it looks something like this. And suspiciously, you fill out the top half and the employer fills out the bottom half, kind of like the FMLA form.
It looks exactly like this.
Almost identical to it, yes. Okay. And when you fill that out, you send the form to the American, and right now I think they send it back to you, or did they send it directly to Medicare? I can't remember where.
No, they send it back to you.
Yeah.
You fax it to them. That's the best way, and then they snail mail it back to you.
Right.
And for some reason, the company just can't get this process in order. You know, it's a slow process, so that's why we suggest that you fax this form to them at least 60 days prior to your retirement date. No further out than 60 days, because when Medicare gets the form, they do a 60-day look back to see if you've had coverage from your employer. So you don't want to send it in too soon, and you don't want to send it in too late. So 60 days out from your retirement date is about the optimal time to send it in.
And because we've been taking the brunt of Americans' incompetence for most of our, you may have a month or two where you actually charge the higher fee. When they get the form, they'll credit that back. So it's not like once they set the price, it's locked in forever. The form will correct it. So yeah, that's how you do that. But let's talk about Medicare. Now, the problem with Medicare is that it's an 80-20 plan. And there's no out-of-pocket max. So if I go into the hospital, I've got my Part A, I have $1 million worth of work in the hospital. Medicare pays the $800,000. I'm on the hook for the $200,000. Yeah, okay. Most of us can't take that kind of hit. So you have to have an insurance policy called a GAP plan or a Medigap or a Medicare supplement plan that will cover that gap. And there are 10 different Medigap plans available. And if you look in the good slide, you'll see that we have a chart showing you the different coverages with each plan. So for instance, some of the plans cover you when you're traveling out of the country, airline employee retirees. Some of them do not. So you want to look at that. Some of them cover certain kinds of treatments, others do not. You want to look at the plans and make sure you find a plan that A, is priced right for you based on the coverage. The good news is every November, December, you can change your Medigap plan. If you're an AA retiree, you have an 11th option. It's a Medigap VIVA plan created specifically for retired airline workers, and you'll find the contact information in the contact section of the Good Slide packet. Okay, now, so you've got these 4 different things, and you're like, that's more complicated than annual enrollment in American. Yeah, it is. It reminds me a lot of that. You have to sign up for each thing individually. Well, business being what they did, they have come up with this thing called a Part C or an Advantage plan. And what it does is it takes all of your Medicare and rolls it into one private plan, kind of like an HMO. And their shtick is they control the payments to the physicians within their network. So you've got to go to a physician within their network. And if your physician's in their network and it's convenient and maybe it'll work for you. And it's apparently very profitable because they offer you all kinds of incentives, bribes, to get you to sign up for their plan. They give you a Silver Sneakers gym membership.
Sometimes because you still have to pay your Part B premium, but sometimes they'll pay you back for your Part B premium.
They pay your premium, refund your premium to you. The other one I saw the other day is they will come and pick you up and take you to your doctor's appointment, which I guess if I can't drive anymore is a really good benefit. But if I can drive, that's going to be really annoying. But anyway, so it's obviously very profitable and it rolls it all together. And sometimes they say, you know what, we're going to refund your Part B premium and not charge you anything. So there are people that essentially have free Medicare just because they're in a network that will have enough profit to pay for all that. This may be a great plan for you.
Free premiums, but there's still costs associated with it.
There are.
There's still that dreaded donut hole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, look at it. You know what? It's complicated. Consult a Medicare advisor. They look at these things 24/7. And the other weird place to look at it is Medicare.gov. You know, for a government website, it's actually pretty clear. It's got good, helpful things. And so look at that. The other thing is on the drug plan, each drug plan covers different drugs differently. So if you start a new drug, say your doctor prescribes Crestor, you may find that the drug plan you're in right now charges you $122 a refill. But you shop around and find out that if you go to a different Part D drug plan, it's only $12 a month refill. So you need to shop based on what medicines you take. Medicare.gov has a little app that will do that shopping for you. The other good place is AARP has an app on it. I always am cautious because they endorse a couple of Part D plans, but they seem to be pretty objective. All right. So, Kim, what else do I need to research?
All right, so the, random little things that we need to research, other than income and medical benefits and what do you get in retirement, here goes. All right, so you need to research life events. You need to know what it is and what's qualified as a life event when you retire. Your optional insurance coverage, such as long, short-term disability, life insurance, what happens to all that? Your dental insurance, what about dental insurance in retirement? Flexible spending accounts, what happens to those? So here we go, life events. It's very important to remember that your retirement is your spouse or your partner's life event. So if they're going to put you on their insurance, they have 30 to 60 days to file a life event and make changes adding you to their insurance coverage. If you're married to another AA employee, you can do this. It's important to remember that if you switch from your insurance to their insurance, they are going to look at it like you're starting a new plan. So your deductibles and your out-of-pocket maxes are going to reset. So, some people choose to, if they're retiring close to the end of the year, maybe COBRA their benefits for a month or two and then go on their spouse's benefits for the next year. It's a good idea if you've already met your deductible and out of pocket. Just some tip to keep in mind. All right, optional insurance. This includes MetLife legal, long-term care policies, home and auto, pet insurance. All of those can be continued in retirement. You just have to reach out to the administrator and say, hey, please start billing me directly for my coverage. Employee life insurance and accident insurance will end. However, this can be ported or converted into a private policy within 30 to 60 days after your retirement date. The good thing about porting or converting your life insurance and your accident insurance is it doesn't require a physical exam to qualify. You would contact New York Life for AD&D and voluntary personal accident insurance and MetLife for the life insurance. Negative, it's quite a bit more expensive when you port or convert the policy, but some people, decide it's worth the expense of doing it. Long and short-term disability coverage will end. However, if you've had a claim filed prior to your retirements, those payments can continue, for as long as the plan says they'll continue, as long as you remain disabled and eligible for that coverage. All right, dental insurance, Gary. MetLife dental insurance is offered when you retire. So there is retiree dental insurance. However, it's zip code rated. It's high dollar, low benefit insurance. And I have not talked to one person that's taken it in years. So there's usually better options out there. AA Credit Union offers a dental club, Benefit Services of America. It's not insurance, but it's a network of doctors. And if you go to those doctors, you'll get a reduced rate. Costco has something similar. There are dental schools. You can go and be a guinea pig. You can also, lots of Medicare supplement plans have figured out that retirees don't all have false teeth and we want to take good care of our we want to have good dental hygiene. So they're starting to offer more options in terms of dental plans. And you can also, most people tend to COBRA their dental for the first 18 months and then go on something, one of the Medicare supplement plan options, or, find one of the dental discount. A good place to start is talk to your dentist, and they might know a good option for you. I
talked to their billing clerk, yeah.
I talked to my dentist, and he offers some little policy where if you run out of your dental benefit or you're retired and you don't have something, you can use that. All right, flex spending accounts. Normally, if you don't use your full flex spending in the year, except $500, you're going to lose that amount. $500 will roll over every year, but if you don't use over and above that, you're going to lose that money. When you retire, it's the only time you can take advantage of using your full flex spending. And then if you leave before the end of the year, AA has to eat that additional amount. So while you can COBRA your flex spending, if you do that, you're going to be losing the benefit of flex spending because you're going to be putting into that account in post-tax dollars. So you're going to, lose the whole benefit of the tax-free quality of the flex spending account. So we always suggest if you have a flex spending account, use it all. And then if you retire before the end of the year, you don't have to make those additional deposits. All right. Now it's your turn to decide. Are you ready to retire? Patrick, help us decide.
All right. There are a lot of moving pieces, as you can tell from this hour and a half worth of fire hose worth of information. But you can do it. You're a flight attendant. You have handled amazingly difficult, stressful flights and layovers and flights that don't fly. You've got it. You can do it. What do you need to do before you leave? I have a recommendation. Start a list. I know it's crazy, but start a list. There's a good checklist on page 37 of the Good Slide handout. That's a great place to start. How do you work a list? How many times have you done CQ? One task, step at a time, in order, just like the planned emergency checklist. I like to think of it as a planned departure checklist. It will work wonders. Also, how many times have you retired so far? Probably zero. Probably zero. You've never done this before. So do not be afraid to ask questions. There are a lot of resources. Probably your best one is APFA, because we have lots of information on it. And once you've got your checklist, you ask questions, and you've gone through the list, you're ready to go. You're prepared. You have got this. You are ready. Let's go. Good slide.
Good slide.
Good slide.
Questions?
All right. I'm 56 and eligible and currently on IOD. Can I retire?
Yes, you can. If you're on an IOD, you don't have to get cleared in order to retire. Like I had mentioned before, if you're eligible for the 65-point plan, and you said you are, you can just go ahead and retire. So absolutely.
I plan to retire in September. Does my company insurance stop at retirement date, or does it go through the end of the year?
Your company insurance stops at midnight on your last day as an active employee. So you need to plan for your first day of retirement, having some other source of medical insurance, whether that's COBRA, a spouse, Affordable Care Act, Medicare, whatever. It ends on your last day as midnight of your last day as an active employee, unfortunately.
If I plan on working at AA until I'm 70 and stay on the company's insurance plan, will I be penalized if I don't enroll in Medicare when I turn 65?
You will not, as long as you get that form we mentioned, the employment verification, or CMSL 564, get it filled out by the company. And when you sign up for Medicare, when you retire, as long as you have that form, you will not be subject to any late enrollment penalties.
Is there any benefit to me besides being able to contribute to an HSA account to wait until I'm 70 to enroll in Medicare?
Well, one advantage is that Americans' insurance is generally cheaper and better. One of the responses I get from people who've retired is, I had no idea that my medical costs would go up so much, because you're depending on what plan you're in, your classic Medicare premiums are probably going to be more than you're paying for your American insurance. And secondly, there's no out-of-pocket max on Medicare. So if you have something serious, you're going to find your copays go up. The hospitalization copays, after, I believe it's after 30 days in the hospital, you start paying $1,000 a day for the next 30 days as part of your Medicare. Even though you've got coverage, it's expensive. So yeah, I mean, you can go to Medicare if you want to. It costs more and isn't as good.
I think premium wise, the costs are getting pretty comparable these days. And if you do an Advantage plan, it's less, but
Could be.
that would have to work for you. You really need to do your research. Some people age 65 and over are starting to choose. It's still a very small percentage, but some are starting to choose Medicare rather than the company's benefits. Usually it's like, I'm planning to retire partway through next year. And so I'm going to go ahead and start Medicare January 1st, sign up during the Medicare enrollment period. So I'm the whole year under the same plan. Those are the main people that are signing up for Medicare while they're still working, as they know they're going to retire in the next calendar year. But most people tend to choose the company insurance because, particularly for the prescription drugs, it's a richer benefit.
Okay, this one is a few questions, so we'll take them a couple at a time. First, with Medicare, what dates/deadlines? It's kind of general in how they phrased it.
Yeah. Okay. The first date is that you sign up for Medicare, assuming that you are already retired by the time you reach Medicare age. You have a really big window to sign up. It's like, what is it, 120 days?
7 months.
7 months.
3 months before you turn 65, and then your birthday month, and then 3 months after you turn 65.
Yeah.
So you have that window to sign up.
But that's people that are already retired before they get there. What about us that are still working? And now I'm going to leave American. I'm past 65 and I have to sign up. My window's much smaller. And that is 30 days prior. And
I think you still
60.
have about 8 or 9 months, but the trouble is they do that look back to see if you've had coverage,
Right.
Creditable coverage, not COBRA, but creditable coverage. So really, even though you have a bigger window technically to sign up for it, to me, it's really 60 days,
Yeah.
so.
And yeah, you can clean it up after the fact, but it's much better to get it all done. So we recommend that you get your application in for Medicare, concurrent with your retirement.
Talk to a Medicare advisor and they will help you get the dates right. And we have the names, in addition to VIA benefits that the company works with, we have the names of some flight attendants who are Medicare advisors and licensed in certain states. And we have the names of some companies that are Medicare brokers that have been recommended by a lot of our flight attendants. So if you need that information, we'll be happy to give it to you.
All right, the next part of this Medicare question, required parts A, B, and C, even though you may still be working employed.
So
Not sure what.
we are not required to sign up for any of that if you're still working. It's optional. And really, if you're still working, the only one you might sign up for would be Part A because there's no cost associated with it. If you're paying for the AA insurance premiums and you're paying for Medicare premiums on top of that, the Medicare is going to be secondary and you're double paying for something. So why would you do that? So the only thing it makes sense for you to sign up for while you're still working, as long as you're not in the core plan, is Medicare Part A because it doesn't have a cost associated with it, unless you want Medicare to become your primary coverage. And at that point, you would tell AA, hey, I've been paying for the company insurance, but I signed up for Medicare and I'm going to make it my primary coverage. They will drop you from the AA health benefits. So
that.
Don't do that unless you're really sure if that's what you want to do. But why double pay for something while you're working and you have good coverage unless you want to make Medicare your primary coverage?
Good. Is past divorce signed agreement, which I believe we call the quadro, right?
No.
Oh, that's the
Divorce
actual
settlement.
divorce settlement.
Divorce settlement.
Is that required by the Social Security Administration before Social Security is released?
Great question. And the answer is no, because the divorce decree doesn't modify Social Security. Social Security has its own set of rules, and you qualify based on the years of marriage and whether or not you were married at the time that you filed for Social Security or that your spouse died. And the divorce decree does not modify Social Security. If it did, it would be crazy because you could do all kinds of weird things in the divorce decree.
Divorce decree modifies like pensions.
It can modify your pension. It can modify who owns what part of the 401k. It doesn't modify Social Security.
Good to know. That's great. Is it true? And if so, why you need to be off core AA insurance before taking Social Security?
No, you've crossed two things. It's not Social Security, it's Medicare.
Medicare, right.
Yeah, you have to be off the core plan if you switch over to Medicare because you can't make the contributions to HSA. I suppose you could stay on the core plan and make zero contributions to the HSA, but why would you do that to yourself? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think is it an IRS regulation? There's
Yes.
some regulation
Yep.
that says if you have a health savings account, which is the type of account that's associated with the core plan, you cannot be contributing to that account and be signed up for Medicare at the same time.
If you are still working, you should not take any Social Security until you reach your full retirement age/date. Otherwise, you will be penalized $1 for every $2 you make over and above 19,000 ?
Absolutely. You heard our recommendation clearly, that even if you're just flying 40 hours, you're still making more than the maximum earnings. Anything over the 19.5, I think it is, you'll pay a penalty. So for most of us still working, it makes no sense to start it early.
Yeah. All right.
I guess if you're at the top of the pay scale, because if you just started later in life, maybe you would be under that amount. I haven't calculated it out, but I'd say most people flying the hard 40 are going to be,
That's a great question.
we need to look at that, but I calculated it at the top of the pay scale because most people, when they hit that age, are at the top of the pay scale. But that's not always the case. So there could be a few minor exceptions to that if you started your career later in life, but you need to calculate what your hourly rate of pay is, and do it based on that.
Okay, I'm going to be in the contract the second this thing's done doing that math. We do have 7 people over the age of 65 who have less than 5 years seniority. So,
I think you guys have gone through this, but just to kind of refresh, the cost of COBRA a year before Medicare kicks in.
it's 25 of the good slide, good slide
For this year.
for this year.
For this year, for the COBRA, for the standard medical plan, so that's the kind of middle of the road plan, for one person, $775.80
A month?
a month for one person. For standard plan for employee plus spouse, $1,784.33, and for employee plus family, $2,496 a month, and that's for the middle of the road plan.
God, kids are expensive.
The high cost coverages, I think the spouse is considered more expensive than the kids because the kids are more likely to have bumps and scrapes, and your spouse may have
Another
diabetes or another kid or something. So hopefully that answered, but we've got them all in the packet. If you need the packet, we'll mail it to you or email it to you, whichever your preference is.
All right. I'm on medical leave and collecting long-term disability while continuing doctor's care. My health benefits are expiring, so I will no longer be paying for my MetLife long-term disability policy. Will I still be able to receive long-term disability payments while under doctor's care and not retired from AA?
Yes, you shouldn't actually be paying for your long-term disability premiums while you're on long-term disability because there's a premium waiver for long-term disability while you're receiving that benefit. So if you were actually paying long-term disability premiums while you were receiving long-term disability benefits, they might owe you some money back. So check on that. Call the health department here at the union and they will help you with that issue. If you retire and you're not paying for the coverage anymore, guess what? You filed your claim when you had the coverage. So they're going to keep paying those benefits for as long as you're disabled and eligible for the benefits, according to the provisions of that long-term disability plan.
And if I apply for Social Security retirement, not disability benefits, will that affect my long-term disability payments?
Okay, so with long-term disability, there's wording in the plan where they require you to file for Social Security disability. If you're not eligible for Social Security disability, they're going to keep paying you the full benefit. If you are eligible for Social Security disability, they offset that. If you are at your full retirement, age for Social Security, you're not going to be awarded Social Security disability. In that case, you can apply for your regular normal Social Security retirement benefit. And in that situation, they do not offset. So the MetLife plan will offset for Social Security disability. If you're past the age for Social Security disability and eligible for regular Social Security retirement benefit, you can get the full Social Security retirement benefit plus the full benefit from MetLife.
Any more? It doesn't look like it. All right, so we've went through all of our questions. We've reached the end of our session today. I want to thank you guys for all of the knowledge that you've shared with our co-workers today. I know navigating retirement is as we saw, a very long and complex thing, and everyone has their own situation with it. So thank you for answering their questions today as well. Anything you'd like to part with?
Keep Patrick's advice in mind, break it into manageable steps. It seems intimidating, but it's not. You can do it. It's not that hard, but when you look at the whole package or think of all the things you have to do all at once, it gets intimidating.
Yeah.
But break it down and you can do it.
Good.
And don't be afraid to reach out to the APFA Retirement Department. We have answers for a lot of questions, and if we don't know the answer, we generally know who to ask to get the answer. And a special thank you to Josh for making this technologically challenging thing happen and make it look flawlessly easy.
Happy to help. Thank you guys for joining us today. This is recorded, by the way. It will go out in a hotline in a couple days and will be posted on the APFA website. Once again, thank you for joining us and happy retiring.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.